All right. Good morning again, everyone. Welcome to another talk series by liyab. We are an e-learning startup focused on helping Gen Z Filipinos transition to working life. So, liyab, if here in liyab, we do online events like this and even programs like a free mock interview program that's starting this Saturday. So, if you're interested in that, please check out our website or our social media pages. And this is all to make sure that students and fresh graduates, basically you, the next generation of the Filipino workforce, have access to resources that are helpful in your early career development. My name is Deirdre. I'm the founder of liyab, but also your moderator for this entire series. So speaking of these series, we organized this because we wanted to introduce to you learners not just like where to look for jobs, but also so you can hear tips from representatives from these online like job platforms on how to stand out on their specific sites, for example. So today we're back to learn more about Workbean.co, a Filipino founded startup. They actually just started this year. And we have the founder, Kass Monzon, here to tell us more about Workbean and give us some tips on job hunting. So as usual, if you have any questions at any point of the talk or later on while we're doing the Q&A, please comment them on the Facebook Live video. We'll be reading them and I will be asking them live to Kass. So this is your chance to learn more about Workbean and get tips from Kass on how to job hunt. All right. So I'll be back later for the questions and I will now hand you off to Kass for her talk.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I can't see you right now, but I hope you guys are there. I'm just gonna give you a quick introduction on what Workbean is, what we do, and what you can do in the platform. And then maybe later on, I'll share with you some tips on how you can make your resume stand out. Because at the end of the day, the very first weapon that you're going to use in your job search is your resume. So that's there. And then just to give you a quick background about myself, I'm the co-founder of Workbean. We started this company last year, launched in January of this year. With a few great companies that we call our hidden gems. I'll talk to you more about that later on. And it's such a coincidence that yesterday I think you guys were talking to a LinkedIn product manager. I actually come from LinkedIn myself. I quit LinkedIn just last year to start something local and to start giving back to the Filipino community because I feel like there's a lot of things that we can improve on in terms of our job hunt. And we sort of want to change how people in this part of the world look for opportunities that will make them happy. So, yeah, let me go through what Workbean is about. Excuse me. So, what's Workbean? We get asked this a lot. We get mistaken for a job portal. We get mistaken for a job board. But the thing is, we don't classify ourselves as a job portal. Not that we don't have jobs. But Workbean is actually a culture search platform. What does it mean? We know too well that when you look for jobs, you don't just sit there and wait for them to call you and tell you all about their company. You go out, I mean, you go to Google, you go and ask your friends, you research about the company, almost stalkingly, because you really just want to know everything about them, you know. So that's something that we want to satisfy when we created Workbean, because I think one of the biggest challenges we have, especially in the Philippines, is the lack of access to information to companies. So we actually only know what we're getting ourselves into when we start our first day, and it's all too late when you realize, oh, I don't belong here. Oh, this is not for me. Oh, these are not the people that I want to be working with, and that's common. These things happen, but sometimes, more often than not, we're left with that feeling that we probably don't belong, but we just gotta stick through it, right? So that's what we do. We provide a platform for you to be able to research your next employer, to know, practically anything and everything you want to know. So the question is, why search for culture, right? Where when all of us are desperate for jobs. The thing is, when we start working, 80%, sometimes even 90% of our time is spent at the workplace. A lot of our mental health issues actually arise from being unhappy at the workplace. And I'm a testament to that. I've been through that. I've gone through a very, very low point in my life because I felt like where I was working was not really for me. it was a great place, people were great, but it's somehow, it didn't fit my personality. It didn't fit the things that I wanted at that point in my life. So, I thought if I was able to ask the right questions, if I was able to see more about this company before I said yes, it would have changed. It would have changed my career. It would have changed the way I made my decisions at that time. So, work being a sort of an advocacy for me as well, for people not to get into jobs that they won't be happy in. So that's that. So what can you see at Workbean? So when you go to Workbean, we actually work very closely with companies that we have on the platform like Canva, Atlassian, Lalamove, CIMB Bank. We work closely with them to help us by uncovering their benefits, their amenities, their culture, their people, their mission, purpose, and more. And we're still working with them to give more things to you so that you can see more of them. So this is what we do. We show you everything that you might possibly want to know about this company to help you make the best career decision and ultimately work where you belong, because that's really what Workbean wants for the people. So yeah, that's Workbean. We are a culture search platform, but we still have a job. We still have jobs in the platform, and I'll show you later on. So yeah. So what can you find on Workbean? So there are a few things that you can find on Workbean that you may not find in any other job portal. First of all, Workbean, when we started this company, we were very adamant in making sure that we find hidden gem companies. Hidden gem companies mean that they don't heavily advertise who they are in the country, but they're huge outside. So just take for example, Atlassian. Atlassian is actually huge in Australia. They're one of the best employers there. When you say Atlassian and you're in San Francisco, when you tell them that you work in Atlassian, you're actually pretty awesome. But in the Philippines, when you tell them that you work in Atlassian, people are like, "What is that?" But when we work closely with them and we figured out their benefits, their office, their amenities, the way they handle their employees during COVID, it was way beyond the expectations. And it's all of these stories are similar to the companies that we have in our platform. So these are the types of companies you will see in the platform because we vet them before we get them into the platform. So we call them hidden gem companies because you won't see them a lot, but when you're actually inside, you're going to be ultimately surprised by how amazing the company culture is within that company. So that's one. It's one of the things that you can do on Workbean. You can find hidden gem companies. Two is that you can research their culture. So this is a bonus. We haven't launched this yet. This look is launching in a couple of weeks time. So whoever's viewing it right now, you're pretty lucky to have seen like how we're going to change the whole thing up. So this is a sample of how we want you to research their culture. We want you to see everything. So from the working hours, right, to identifying if Atlassian is the right company for you, if Canva is the right company for you, you want to take a quiz just to see if you're going to be able to match with the personalities of the people within that company. That's two. Three, we want you to know what they did during the COVID-19 pandemic for their people because that's a hot topic everybody is talking about. How did you treat your employees? How did you give back to the community? That's something that we did our homework and we want to give it to you. So what did they do during COVID-19? And then there are times kasi that when Atlassian is doing something totally different in the US in terms of their operations. But Atlassian is also doing something totally different in their operations in the Philippines. So this did you know box right here is we want you to be able to know what their business is in the country because more often than not it's not similar to how they run their business in Singapore, in Australia, or in the US. So we want you to know what you're getting yourself into when you join this company. What operations are you going to be involved in? What contribution will you have in the greater Atlassian company or any other company? So then again, we want to show you their benefits, their amenities. We want to show you how many people are working there, what's the age group like, what's the average tenure, things like this. We want to be able to give to you because again, like what I said earlier, 80% of your time will be spent working with these people in this company. So we want you to be fully informed about your future workplace and teammates so as to lessen the risk of you going through a really bad time at work. So that's there. The next thing that you'll be able to see on Workbean is you can actually now, so we did the talent directory as a public service. When it was announced, I think by Dole, that 7 million people, I think more, actually 10, their forecast was 10 million people are going to lose their jobs in the country. We thought, we're a startup, we really can't do anything much in terms of monetary donations. We thought, why don't we do something for them in the way that we can? So we created a talent directory um, where we want those people who were displaced and also fresh grads because they're the most vulnerable at this point in time where we are. We want them to be able to have an outlet for them to be able to just advertise themselves. Yes, LinkedIn will be there. You know, we always advocate that you be on all social media platforms to increase your network, to increase your visibility. But then we also thought, because we're lobbying this with recruiters, with companies, that if you're looking to hire, prioritize those who were displaced or those who just graduated. So we created that talent directory here as a public service for those who are looking to hire. Prioritize people in this list because we sort of tried to consolidate those who were displaced and just graduated to be in one place. So in Workbean right now, you can actually create your professional profile and advertise your skills and experience. So we ask everybody um, to sort of give give like an about me section. Just talk about what you do, right? What was your experience like? And then hopefully, you know, a recruiter, when they see it, they'd be able to reach out to you and offer you a job. So that's what we do. So a few tips lang on how you can create your professional profile. So there's three things that we get asked this a lot by the people who are signing up. So how we want to differentiate you is that we want you to be able to do your personal elevator pitch because you know recruiters just don't have time to scour through your entire profile to know that you're a fit. So if you can eloquently, you know, spend time on creating a 1 to 2 sentence elevator pitch about yourself, about your strengths, about your experience, about what you're good at, do that. Do that in that about me section because that's the first thing that people will see if they go to the talent directory. Second is that we want you to be able to list down the tools that you're familiar with. Why? Because we're entering the digital. I mean, we're not even entering, we're here. It's inevitable. We're in the digital age that's truly what we need to survive. It's not a competitive advantage anymore to be tech savvy. It's a requirement to survive. So we want you at this point in time, if you don't have any tools that you're familiar with, go familiarize yourself, you know, even with just Google Analytics, Google Data Studio, Facebook Analytics. And if you know those tools, put it in your profiles because these tools will ultimately help you stand out in the eyes of recruiters. So even for us, right, when we're just looking for interns for Workbean, we had to ask them what kind of tools they use. Do they know Facebook Analytics? And you'd be surprised. College students now they know these things. They know how to track. So they were the ones who told us, right, what our audience was, what our demographics was. So these are things that recruiters look for. These are things like as a founder of a company, that's what I look for in people. So show that in your talent card. And I'm sure people will really reach out to you. Third is share your professional social media links. So it's not just LinkedIn. For the more creative people, there's Behance, there's Dribble. For developers, there's actually GitHub, GitLab. You can show your portfolio there, and we encourage that in your talent card because we want people to know what you're capable of. Because we can just talk about our skills, right? Now, you can talk about you know how to do Vue.js, for example, but you know, if we give you an exam and you can't actually do Vue.js, then you wasted our time and you wasted your time. And it's really not a very good brand for yourself. So I think for to help recruiters and to help validate yourself, at least create like a profile on any available kasi parang for creatives there's Behance, for developers there's GitHub. Create a portfolio there so that you have something to talk about. You have something to show as proof that, hey, I can actually do this because I've done it. Whether it's on a school project or a personal project, at least there was an application to the skill that you're claiming to have. Because that's always what recruiters are telling me, right? Some people would say, oh, I have collaboration skills, I have I know teamwork and things like that. But when recruiters give you a situation where you have to show that you know how to collaborate, you fail. So that's also one of the things that we want people to remember when they put their skills on any, diba, resume or any profile that you have out there. Make sure that you can back it up. And that's the same thing here. Back it up by putting your social media links that can help people understand you better. So that's for the professional profile. And then this is coming soon. Also, first announcement. We haven't announced this anywhere. So you can actually in the future ask an employee from a company. That's coming soon. We don't because a lot. We did a study. We did a survey very recently. We asked people what they want. If you are the ones who are creating a job description right now or a job card right now in any job portal, what would you want? Or if you're a job seeker now, what is lacking in the market right now? And they said, diba, first thing that they do is, of course, they get interviewed. The next thing is they're gonna find someone that they know in their network and ask what it's like to work in this place. Diba, when you say that you have, there is this person sabi niya, when you say that you have well-stocked pantries, gaano ka well-stocked yan? Those, even those little questions, when you have gym memberships, anong gyms yan? Sometimes those things, they're seemingly like small, but it matters. I mean, I had those questions before I joined any of the companies that I joined. When they say that they have this kind of benefit, I'm like, ano ibig sabihin ng stock options? I mean, you can talk about stock options, but then what does it really mean? Especially for a fresh grad, right? Actually, if a company has stock options or equity options, go for it because it's really amazing. But sometimes we really just want to know what it's about. So we want you to be able to ask an employee, right? Ask them anything as long as it's not, diba? It's not damaging to the company or anything. But ask them anything you'd want to know about your future in this company. How do they work? Where do they go for lunch? What do they do for fun? Things like that. We want to encourage you to just be able to do that. Because some people, they're really very madiscarded. They're gonna go and ask someone from LinkedIn, even if they don't know the person, right? So, dito, we want to be able to ask verified employees talaga and get verified answers from people in that company. And then also, what we have right now currently is most of the companies we have on Workbean have FAQs. Whether it's Canva, whether it's Atlassian, it's Lalamove, they actually have FAQs. There are questions that we always ask, and the truth is, recruiters really just don't have time to answer all of it. And sometimes because of those questions, tumatagal yung reply. So we actually work together with them and ask them, diba, if there are FAQs, can you please list it down in your Workbean culture page so that if people have questions about your company, they can just go to that. So for anyone who's here and you're applying to any companies that are on Workbean right now, I encourage you to check out their FAQs because I think you're going to learn a thing or two about how to succeed in an interview or an application with them. Right. So, and finally, of course, yun nga, Workbean, although it's not a job board, we want you to still be able to apply to jobs. At the end of the day, when you resonate with that company, the next action item on your list is really to check, is there an opportunity for me here? Um, so when you go to the job board, you'll actually see. For example, diba, we have Canva, they have loads of jobs right now. For any designers out there looking for work, go to Canva. I can attest to an amazing culture that they have within that company. But yun nga apply to a job that suits you because we want you to do your research. We want to save your time. And we want to save the time of the recruiter. Kasi for, diba, I want you to self-select. We want you to self-select. Am I gonna be fit in this place? And if you do, apply to a job that you like. And then, diba, in a company where, you will belong. So, it's a win-win for both parties. So yeah, that's basically some of the things that you can do on Workbean, and I've shared how you can make your talent card stand out. We're doing something awesome in the back end for those talent cards to come out and to reach more recruiters. But now, diba, let's plant the seeds. We're not even, diba, we're not even close to the 10 million people who lost their jobs. So that's also one of the things that we want you to advocate to your friends and to your friends na fresh grads or nawalan din ng trabaho. Like, tell them to be there. And then we're gonna make something on the back end to help you reach recruiters and reach those people who are still hiring and don't know where to look. So yeah, that's what Workbean is about. That's how you can succeed in the platform. But lastly, um, this one is really something I want to share. Because I've done a lot of consultation sessions with fresh grads over the last few weeks. As part of my personal initiative to help. Because I don't know how else to help. I don't have money or jobs to give them. So I thought let's just do consultations. And one of the main consultation topics has always been the resume. And I find myself saying these things all of the time. So the thing to remember is if you're applying to a company na automated yung application, for sure, there are bots checking your resume prior to actual human recruiters. When you go through, it's called the applicant tracking system. Most companies have it. And that applicant tracking system, those bots in there will actually scour your resume if okay ka pumasa for an actual human. So why am I saying that? It's because I want you to remember these five things for those of you who are listening right now. When you create your resume, I know there's a temptation to overdo it, like put colors, baka you'll stand out, put crazy fonts, um, for you to stand out. But the thing is, these bots are not that smart. They're still pretty archaic, some of them. So they can only read basic fonts, they can only see basic layouts. If you put too much color, even if you have all the skill sets, you probably may not be able to get in. You may not be able to get processed by that bot kasi hindi niya maintindihan. So pag hindi niya maintindihan, syempre since bot lang siya, give up na siya. So that's what's happening. So that's the first thing. Avoid too much color, crazy fonts, and design layouts. For your resume, really keep it simple. And then I think si Liab, they've been advocating this a lot. You parang customize your resume to the job that you're applying to. And how you do that is really the check out the job description. If you're really dead set on getting that job, study the job description because the recruiters spend a lot of time writing that job description. So it means that those keywords that they use, more often than not, those are the keywords that they're looking for in your resume. So look at the job description, look at the keywords of that actual job that you want to apply to, and try to incorporate it in your resume. Not to say that you have to lie, but if there are things there that are applicable to you, make it represent it in your resume, and you might just have a higher chance of getting a call back. Third is instead of your objective. So this is something that I see a lot until now. This is the 21st century. Do not write your objective anymore. Please, instead of your objectives, please write a short summary na lang about yourself. Again, elevator pitch. What you will write on that talent card, probably just write it in your about me section or because I want to know like for me, when I look at resumes, I want to know what you're made of. I want to know what you can do. And usually, um, the first thing that I look at is your about me section. After that, diba? Especially if you're a fresh grad. So if there are fresh grads looking at this, I know that you don't have experience, so we will hire you for your potential. We're not gonna hire you for your experience. So how you can showcase your potential is the way you sort of package yourself in that about me section. So that's the third thing. Please let go of all the objectives, even if probably the schools will teach you that. Please take it out. Put a summary section. Fourth is another thing that I see in a common mistake of fresh grads is they're narrating their responsibilities. So for example, you join an org, you were a president. What did you do differently as a president of that org? Or even if you're just a contributing member, did you do anything that, that contributed to the result of that project? Diba, or don't tell us what you did, but what you did that resulted in this. Show us the results rather than narrating paano nyo ginawa yung ba. Like, rather than telling me that you coordinated and you sent out 10 proposals. Okay, when you sent out 10 proposals for sponsorships, how many of them came back? And how much was that worth that contributed to your project success? So rather than telling me that you talk to to companies for proposals, show us the numbers. How much was it, and what happened with that money? So that's the fourth one. And five, last but not the least, do not put your photo ever. Because humans are still prone to bias unless they ask. That's when you put. But if they don't, I suggest that wag na lang. because we really can't help human biases. We don't know what the personality of what the recruiter's personality is. We don't know their mood for that day. Maybe di na feel yung mukha nyo on that day and you're gonna be just X from the list. So the thing is, don't put your photo. Don't put anything that will um, have them identify your gender, your anything. Let's make it skills based. Let's make it something that's professional based to avoid any biases. So, 'di ba, you know that when you get hired, you got hired for the skills and your potential. Yeah, so those are just the things that I have. Workbean is pretty straightforward, and this is really something that I really want to share to summarize the conversations I've had with our Gen Z friends over the last few weeks. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Cass.
Thank
I
you.
learned so much about like the work that you do in Workbean right now, especially like, well, at least my impression of like the next generation of the Filipino workforce, or Gen Z audiences is they're a bit more concerned now with like what culture is. So I really appreciate that you put that front and center through Workbean. So
Hmm.
I have a question related to that. Maybe like in the past couple of months that Workbean has been operating, and maybe in talking to your users or the different companies that you work with, um, out of all like the perks or maybe aspects of a work culture, what did you find mattered the most to job seekers?
Okay, so in that survey, three things came out. Three things actually matter the most to job seekers. One is ultimately benefits. They still want to know. Actually, it's true because that's also the first thing that I want to know, right? Benefits. You'll be surprised. Even Gen Zs, the fresh grads also, I think they know about these things now. So they also look at benefits. That's number one. Number two, is they care about companies who care for their people. I think one of the emerging topics now is compassion. They're looking for that. People are looking for compassion in companies, whether it's how you treated your employees or how you treated your customers during this difficult time. That's the second one. Hold on. The third one is actually the leadership.
Mm.
That was one of the things we were pleasantly surprised with, because overwhelmingly people said they care or they want to know who the leaders are. And probably I feel my hypothesis is that it's because of what's happening, diba? I mean, good leaders actually stood out. The leaders who actually made a difference by being compassionate were actually the ones being celebrated. So I think it has something to do with what's happening in the world as well. So yeah, those are the three things that came out.
Mm. Actually, we have a question on the Facebook Live that is related to that. When we think about work culture, what are some important aspects of company culture that we should initially look out for? Like, let's say, should it be the beliefs first, lifestyle, interaction between employees, etc.?
The very first thing, if you really truly want to resonate with that company, check out their core values. Look at what their values are, because that's going to shape how people think within that company. If the company is being run well, whatever the values are has to be reflected and has to be done by the employees, right? So I think in every company that I've been with, yung core values, you even had it memorized unintentionally, because every time when someone does something, for example, okay, when I was at LinkedIn, one of the things that um we always jokingly tell each other when we criticize each other is that, are you open, are you honest, are you constructive? Because in LinkedIn we have these core values na parang you have to be open, honest, and constructive, and it's always kailangan magkasama, because you can be open and honest but it can be hurtful. You can be open and honest and it can be destructive to the person. So whenever we give criticism to each other, we always ask, okay, is that open? Is that honest? Is that constructive? And then if it's not, diba, we take a step back and we're like, oh nga, no, it's not the way things are. And then another thing is we always tell each other to act like an owner. So when I was at LinkedIn, I was doing sales. Meaning I've been traveling a lot. I've been spending a lot on the Amex and things like that. And then it's not being audited most of the time. But always, whenever I see a colleague in the same hotel or checking into the same hotel, we always remind each other or act like an owner. Like, don't naman eat steak all the time. Diba? If you can portion out the budget that you have, that's the best thing to do. So I think the very first thing you look for in a company is their culture. Tapos, diba, the way we do it kasi in Workbean is we show you the photos, we show you the people. So when you look at the company values, go back, look at the photos, look at the benefits. Kasi sometimes even the benefits and the amenities are reflected based on the company's values. On what you value as a company, yun din yung mag-reflect sa benefits. For example, there are companies, diba, that are promoting diversity and inclusion. They want every single member of the workforce to be included. Yung benefits ba niya, does it really make that person feel included? Is the HMO or the health insurance um open even to those who are in an LGBTQ relationship or something like that. So those are the things that I think you can validate yourself when you look at the core values. But ultimately, look at that first.
All right, thank you. But so it's very interesting, Cass, because not a lot of like companies, well, at least for me, are hidden gems here in the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines. Um, I guess like my question is like, can you tell us more about like what qualifies as hidden gems and like what does not? So that like for the people watching this right now, and they're looking for jobs, so that they're very clear, like some job seekers are really of the mindset that hey, I really want to work for like a popular company or something. So does that mean that I shouldn't look on Workbean? What does that really mean for you?
Okay. Kasi when we started Workbean, our advocacy was to find companies who are struggling to brand themselves in the country. Because the thing is, they have amazing things to offer. It's just that they don't have a platform to do it. And diba, the big platforms, they're crowded with the big companies na. I mean, not to say, diba, P&G is amazing. I used to want to work at P&G and Unilever. And those big brands, Nestle, all these things, they have a very good reputation. They have great benefits. They have great learning opportunities there. But the truth is, not everybody can get into those jobs, right? Out of the 10 million who lost their jobs, let's say for example, there's 10 openings in every FMCG. Ilan lang yun? It's not even gonna reach 1,000 people. So what we're advocating is, diba, still try your luck in the big companies. If you get in, diba, amazing. But look at the other side of the coin, because there are companies who probably I'll give you an example. Canva is such a hidden gem company that I was pleasantly surprised that when I walked into their office, they have a private chef who serves them food, hot meals. I've never had this is the thing that really surprised me. Asparagus soup. Who knew that asparagus soup would taste awesome in in an in-house kitchen in a company setting? And I was surprised, and then I had to check out the kitchen. It's an industrial kitchen na parang restaurant. And they serve food every day. And then I asked about it. So we had to probe what are the benefits that you have. And their benefits are so progressive, are so out of this world that we just had to ask ourselves, bakit hindi kayo na-advertise noon? I mean, why? So we thought, okay, can we just like advertise everything you guys have and then see what happens? Um, so we're still advocating for you to, diba, follow your dreams. If you're in college, you wanna work at a Unilab, go ahead. But Workbean is here if you need more parang quirky, fun, diba, a different approach to how they handle people kind of thing. That's what we do. That's what we exist for. And it doesn't mean that we don't like the big companies. We're actually advocating for them to be in a platform. So to have that healthy sort of a mix of different companies that we have. But for now, what you're gonna see in Workbean is what we call hidden gems. Those that are not actively seen, but gems, because when you actually go through the layers of that company, you're gonna see such an amazing culture.
And I think that's amazing because like for me when I first started applying for jobs, I applied to companies that I am already familiar with, like the companies whose billboards I see, whose ads
Correct.
I see or whatever, right? But then there are so many companies here in the Philippines that aren't necessarily like consumer facing. Like some of them would be like B2B, so you would never encounter their names, but like they would be so big in other industries, or very very specific, I guess some niche industries. So I think that's very interesting that, okay, if you're having a hard time looking for these companies that might be interesting, I love that Workbean already sort of curates and features these companies that probably we would have never heard of before. So
Yeah,
we
exactly.
we have a question here, and I think it's very interesting. David is asking, does Workbean also provide info on how competitive the rates are compared to global industry standards? At one point, I asked the same question through Glassdoor.
Sorry, say that again. Naputol a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Does Workbean also provide info on how competitive the rates are compared to global industry standards? Because at one point, this user asked the same question through Glassdoor.
Mm-hmm. At the moment, we don't have it yet. At the moment, we do have the global market standards in terms of the salary range, but as always, it's a topic that's not easily. Parang it's not it's a little bit awkward to talk about this in this part of the world. And that's something that I can actually attest to because LinkedIn has this product where we summarize the salaries of the people on the platform. You'd be surprised Asia was the last one to adopt. Yung US, I think they launched it successfully in US and Canada because people are open about their salaries and stuff like that. And when I was demoing it to my clients, then walang data on salary on Asia, and it's because of how we're wired. For some reason, we're not open to talk about it, but that's something that we're studying. That's something that we're trying to see if we can, diba, if we truly want to compete with global companies and global platforms, then we really have to be able to show that transparency. So yeah, thanks for that question and validating that. That's actually something that's been bugging our minds for a very long time now.
I'm curious though, because this is something also a couple of our learners in Liyab have asked. Like, is there a way to, I guess, like graciously ask this from like the HR person that you are talking to? How would you, I guess, suggest that we approach this topic once we're talking to a recruiter, for example?
So the thing with recruiters is they're not gonna be surprised if you ask them about salary range. Ultimately, they won't be. You just have to ask. It's getting over that fear of asking. That's really something I want to change. Um, in our community, especially if we're young, we're like, oh, should I ask? I mean, just don't ask ridiculously, diba? I mean, if you're a fresh grad, don't ask for 100K salary. I don't think that's gonna happen. But do ask. I think it's smart to ask. Kunwari nasa conversation with a recruiter, ask them what's the market rate or the range of the salary for people in this category, right? Because they would know. These recruiters have sources, have consultants telling them that this is the market rate. And I don't think they will lie. And if they
Mm-hmm.
do, then you know what you're getting yourself into na, diba? You can actually validate whatever they're saying naman. Because, diba, when you Google salary range, I think there are consultancy firms that are actually releasing them. So, I mean, pag sinabi nila sa'yo, take it with a grain of salt and then do your own research on what the market rate is really all about. But I don't think it's wrong to ask what the salary range for that specific position is. Um, so that you'll also be informed. But that question, I don't think recruiters will be offended because that's their conversation day in and day out.
Mhm. One of the so I just wanted to share, especially for those who are new to Liab this year. So early this year, we released actually a first pay survey. So it's open source. Actually, you can access that Google sheet anytime if you want if you want to run your analysis on it. We have about like 2,600 people who contributed like their first pay. So we wanted to focus more on first pay, because I feel like a lot of the like future salaries you have will be benchmark on what the first salary that you get is. So I wanted to stress that point further. And one of the things that I found there was like a bit sad, knowing that a lot of like the first pays are really towards like the lower ranges, and it was very rare to see salaries in the higher range of the spectrum. But we've gotten feedback from people who've used that before to like negotiate their rates and everything. So it's very interesting to see, like you can categorize it by role or by industry, and then seeing that like someone in the same role in the same industry is paid like three times as much in another company. So that
Yeah.
allows people to negotiate and benchmark more what kind of industries they're getting into. And we also teach our learners to base their decision sort of like on what we found through that. Because one of the things I found from like some of our learners is that parents usually would say that, hey, mataas magpasweldo sa industry na yan, ganyan. But the world has changed, right? Since they were working or since they first started working, something that was, I guess, like a highly technical job before is now a bit more commoditized now and is not as high paying as before. So we found it very important also to put there like what year this was, um, what year this rate was, so that people can adjust their expectations based on that. So it's not really like comparing it to global industry standards because we were really focused on collecting data from within the Philippines. So
Yeah.
obviously we're really not there yet in making sure that we are paid closer to what, like, let's say our Western counterparts are being
Yeah.
paid, but at least it's a start.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. Actually, and one of the things, right? I think for a fresh grad, one of the rookie mistakes we make is that we don't negotiate or we don't even say no if talagang pangit yung offer. So, uh, I had this experience. My very, very first job offer was for a big, huge FMCG. Um, and they offered me at that time, that was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 14K. I was mind blown. I was like, oh my God, I see your brand everywhere. You had me go through this sales trainee program. And then 14K. Tapos sabi ko, hold on ah. And then I had to, diba, break it down to the person. Kasi baka, sabi ko, baka you're misinformed about what's happening. Um, this is how much it costs if I take MRT to work every day. Maha-half yung salary ko just because of the commute. Because I live all the way north tapos nasa south ka or nasa business district ka. Sabi ko, ito yon. Sabi ko, kaso may kotse ako. So, ito yung gasolina, diba? And I'm like, this is how much it's gonna cost. So, how are we gonna make it work? And then that's like barring the SSS, any contributions pa. So, I'm like, how is this gonna work? And unfortunately, they couldn't answer. So I had to muster the courage, even though I really wanted to work at that company. I had to muster the courage to say, no, I can't take this. I think I've spent 6 months doing the sales trainee program because that was the very first program of that company for salespeople. And then I had to make that decision to say no. And then, di ba, I went to a smaller, doon ko nakita yung concept of hidden gem. I went to an I went to a consulting firm called Mercer. They paid way higher than that. And I'm like, and I had no competition. So that's the thing about hidden gem companies. Like, when you go there, I was literally probably like one of the two people they interviewed for that post. And it wasn't a bad company. It's Mercer. It's a consulting firm. I learned from consultants. I was working on consultancy projects. I'm like, this is the life that I actually wanted. And then I got it all because I had to look at diba, yung mga lesser known, but God, they pay better and their benefits are way better. So I think that's something that the people that are coming to work now have to keep in mind. Don't get super blinded by like diba, by reputation. Actually, in our survey, the funny thing that came out was we asked them kasi what matters to you when you look for jobs. Actually, company reputation scored in the bottom five, bottom three. So I guess diba, people now are more practical in terms of how they want to look for jobs. So also as a fresh grad, don't sell yourself short naman. If you think it's really a ridiculous amount, challenge them. And if they can't change it for you, have that courage to say no because I'm sure there will be other opportunities if you know where to look.
Yeah, and I really appreciate how Workbean helps us look for that now,
Yeah.
instead of like having to look for it ourselves or stumble upon it. And thank you for sharing that story. I'm more curious now, like how did you, I guess, find out about Mercer at this point? Was it like your own initiative also, or someone suggested it to you?
No, it was the old school way, as in I scoured job boards. And then one of the things then kasi is like LinkedIn wasn't really used by our like the fresh grads at that time. So that's how I thought before. Parang go to a place where not a lot of people go to. Or like, diba, search somewhere where people, kasi at that time, people are going crazy on Jobstreet, diba? Kasi they're sikat. And then LinkedIn was just starting to make traction in the Philippines as that portal for jobs. So I thought, check ko kaya. And then I just checked out jobs that are, I know that are probably, alam ko nga I wasn't like really qualified for it or something. But I said, there's no harm in doing it. Maybe, kasi parang I thought, let's not go for the big brands first. Let's go for those na maliliit yung brand. And when I researched them, oh, they're actually a New York Stock Exchange registered. I mean, they're listed in the New York Stock Exchange. They've been here for 100 plus years. I'm like, let's try. And then I was pleasantly surprised because that's where I met my very first amazing boss. So those things actually happen. So there's really hope. If a big company says no to you, I'm pretty sure there will be a company that will accept you for who you are and pay better for sure. So
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you so much, Cass, for sharing that inspiring story. I like how so far we've been like wrapping up these like job board conversations into like talking to our speaker about their own journey of like finding a job that they like yesterday Mika was sharing about her journey of like really hacking through LinkedIn to land her job. And now
yeah,
I love how this also ties into like what Workbean is all about like those hidden gems, and to hear that your story is about like finding work in a hidden gem company, and now you want to help others um find those same opportunities and make it easier for them now. We don't have any further questions from the Facebook Live, but I really appreciate that you took the time today to introduce us to a new like portal that we can. I know you're not like necessarily a job search portal.
a culture search
Um,
platform. Let's just
yeah,
put it like
yeah,
that.
a new platform
Yeah,
where we can not only find jobs but also learn more about like a company's culture, which is especially now very important.
yep,
Given that I like how like Workbean is also very relevant to like what's happening in our country right now. How like people are unemployed, and that you've created this initiative to make sure that um, people are listed, and that people like these companies hiring right now can still find them, especially. And I hope that the listeners or the viewers right now will check out Workbean, see if like you can find your own hidden gem um, through their platform. And I know Cass and her team are working very hard to add more hidden gem companies onto their platform. So um, keep checking them out. I love that we also got like a preview of what's to come. This is what I really like about inviting like either product people or people very much involved in the direction of the product, because we get like spoilers or sneak peeks into like what kind of features we can expect to help us look for jobs in the future.
yeah.
Before we end, maybe Cass, if you wanna say some final words or promote anything, now is your chance.
Well, you did the promoting, so thank you for that. But yeah, for those who are looking for something different, talaga, something fun, something like a different approach to job search, go to workbean.co. There's still a whole lot of jobs out there. There are companies that we work with that even hiring interns right now. So check them out. And check what you're getting yourselves into, so you know how to self-select and to filter for your own. And then another thing is that for fresh grads, I think one of the things that really helped them is our blog. So go to advice.workbean.co. Every now and then, actually, we're doing it regularly now. We're putting up advice for fresh grads and also for professionals who are already working on how to look for jobs, or how to. We even published this new article na parang questions to ask to uncover a company's culture. What are the questions you have to prepare for? What are the questions to ask the recruiter when you're in an interview? So I've had a couple of people tell me that they use those questions And the recruiters were pleasantly surprised that they were able to ask those questions. So if you have any suggestions for topics that you want us to talk about also in the blog, message us on our Facebook page, on Workbean. We will be very happy to just help you with the journey to getting your dream job.
All right. Thank you so much, Kaz. And I really appreciate that you guys are also in this space of just like giving out like helpful resources to everyone. Anyone who has access to internet, and I really hope that most people now have a bit more access, can access all of these resources. They don't have to rely on like just what they learn from like their close circle, but just expand it from people who've either like worked in these platforms or have actually done the hiring or have done like a lot of like deeper research into these topics. So um like my go-to advice is really just like research as much as you can as a topic, on a topic, and on like even just the companies. And I like that Workbean allows that to become a lot easier these days. um so thank you so much, Cass, for sharing a bit of your time to us. And I just wanted to say a few final words because this is only like day 2 of this series. We still have Fast Jobs and Caliber coming up. So that's tomorrow and on Thursday. We're still going to go live at 10 a.m. And like I said, I wanted to not just focus on one of these platforms, but all of the different ones that we have access to, because they have their own unique benefits and offerings to job seekers. So, for example, LinkedIn leverages on your network. Workbean focuses more on culture, and we'll hear more about how Fast Jobs and Caliber can also has features that fit like specifically what you're looking for. So, I'll see you all again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bye.